Hi divas! In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you a bit more about the technical side of your vocals. You're going to learn how the vocal cords actually work, and you'll see it's something quite fascinating, something to give you a deep, profound respect and reverence for your vocals. I'm also going to be sharing a bit more about my personal singing journey, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. So my divas, how are you doing? I hope everybody is well. Today I'm going to be getting into a bit more of the technical side when it comes to your vocals. So that's the mechanism of the vocal cords, how they actually work, some of the different terms and that kind of thing. So don't get bored. Sometimes when I go into this subject, people might get a little bit intimidated. Maybe they don't, know a lot of these big words or fancy terms, but remember, I am here to break it all down and make it easy, accessible, easy to understand for just the general person. So we're just going to go over a little bit, not too much. I'm not going to overwhelm you, but just stick through it and see the benefits. The reason I teach on this is because, like I said, it gives you that respect for your vocals. And also it's something people don't realize, which is actually a gift. Your vocals, your voice, it is a gift, an instrument that has actually been built into us, like how you would think of a guitar or some drums as an instrument. The vocals or the vocal cords, your voice box, is like an instrument that has been built into the human body. So learning about the technical side, even if it's just a little bit, even if you don't have a vast array of knowledge on how the vocals actually work, just knowing a little bit will help to build that respect for your own self, your own vocals, your own voice, and it keeps us grateful for this gift. Remember, there are people living all over the world that don't have a voice, figuratively and literally do not have a voice. There are people that are not able to speak up for their rights, for example. People in countries where there are wars going on, it's a real thing. There are people all over the world that are oppressed in different forms, and they may not be able to speak up for themselves or for others. That's an example of figuratively not being able to speak. And then literally, there are people that were born without a voice, people that were born muted or maybe deaf, which affects how they are able to speak and how much they are able to actually project out of their vocals. So, it's things like that which help us stay grounded, and remembering things like that which help us to stay grateful for this beautiful gift that we have been given. Okay, so here we go. How the vocal cords work. Your vocal cords vibrate to make sound. The vocal cords are small bands of muscle and other tissues inside the voice box, also known as the larynx. The air from your lungs makes them vibrate when the edges of the vocal cords come together. This is what makes the sound. How exactly do vocal cords produce sound? Sound is produced when the air which passes through the vocal cords causes them to vibrate and creates sound waves in the pharynx, nose and mouth. The pitch of sound is determined by the amount of tension of the vocal cords. How do vocal cords open and close? Air comes out of the lungs through the trachea and into the larynx. The air makes the vocal cords vibrate. When the vocal folds vibrate, they alternately trap air and release it. Where does your voice come from? The larynx is the voice box. The vocal folds, also called vocal cords, are part of the larynx. The vocal folds vibrate to create the sound of the voice. What controls your voice? The sound of your voice is produced by vibration of the vocal folds, which are two bands of smooth muscle tissue that are positioned opposite each other in the larynx. The larynx is located between the base of the tongue and the top of the trachea, which is the passageway to the lungs. What controls the vocal cords? Open when breathing and vibrating for speech or singing, the folds are controlled via the recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. They are composed of twin infoldings of mucous membrane stretched horizontally from back to front across the larynx. Okay, so that was it for the technical side for today. I hope you didn't get too bored or feel overwhelmed, but I've done my best to put in some diagrams so that you see which parts of the body I am referring to when I use these different terms, obviously with reference to the vocal cords like trachea and larynx and all these different things. Okay, so I hope you would see it as something interesting, something to give you more sort of interest in your own body and this instrument that you have built into you, the capabilities that it has, how it actually works, and how you can benefit from learning to use your vocal cords correctly. Now, for those of you who would like to go even deeper and learn even more about your vocals, I have put together a beautiful course called Learn How to Sing Vocal Training. It takes you all the way through from beginners to intermediate and then advanced vocal training, so you can benefit no matter which level you are on. There we go even deeper into this topic. You can learn how to really master your vocals, see what are your capabilities and how you can reach your higher potential. There is so much you can achieve by developing this awareness of your vocals. Transform your vocals and build your self-esteem. I will leave all the information in the description box below. So, you can maybe tell that I am very passionate about this subject, not just teaching vocals, but also helping people with their vocals to reach their full potential. And I think part of the reason is because I also wish I had someone that was there for me and believed in me on my journey, my personal singing journey growing up. I never really had mentorship or inspiration. I mean, there were key people here and there, like catalysts that played a part, maybe like a teacher in primary school that may have said something or showed more interest and belief in me. But in general, I never had that. And so I would like to be some kind of avenue in that way for other people, even though it may not be personally where we are like face to face with each other. We do have technology. We have video calls, which is how we do a lot of the video classes and sessions that I teach. So that's something that can really help. And I find this way we're able to reach a broader audience and help more people. So I am going to be diving a little bit deep here. I am a very deep person in general, and my hope is in that by sharing our stories, we're able to inspire, encourage, uplift one another, so people see they're not alone going through something. I think knowing or feeling that you're alone in something just makes it so much more difficult, that much more difficult. And it can help to ease the situation, knowing that you're not alone in your struggles. I was a very lone ranger growing up. I was that kid that was very neglected. My parents were always busy and working. And so I grew up a lot to myself. Even though I had two siblings, we weren't always as close. So for me, I pretty much liked being on my own as well. And I still do like being on my own. So, I mean, it has its positive side, but then it can also have a very negative side as well. I want us to be able to face those tough things head on. Let's not be afraid of those deep emotions. You might notice yourself sort of pulling back when it comes to talking about deep stuff, whether it's for yourself or if you have a friend that is sharing. I have noticed that so many times, if you open up a bit and that person is not ready to hear it, people have all of these weird defense mechanisms. They might try and change the subject, they may try and deflect. What's really insensitive that people don't realize is if they nervously may try and make light of it or make a joke, that just makes the person sharing feel like crap. Okay, so just a note to self, if you find that it's something difficult for you, maybe to hold space for another person, try just listening, you know, being a listening ear. Even if you don't have to give advice, most of the time people don't always want your unsolicited advice. You know, sometimes people just want someone that's there for them, that can give them that kind of acknowledgement. I know for me in my personal life how much it's helped having a friend there who's very much like a therapist, who is just there to listen, to acknowledge you, so that you feel seen and validated. I think that is the deeper thing behind it. So here we will hold space for each other. There is no embarrassment or shame. We are throwing all of that out the window. You can dive as deep as you want and share as deep as you are able to go as well. So I loved singing from the time I was a little girl. Ever since I can remember, if I could talk, I could sing. I just reveled in it. I would love singing. I would walk around the house and the garden singing. Years later, my neighbors at the house where I grew up even told me how they would just smile to themselves hearing this little girl singing Mariah Carey, Hero, and you know, all the songs that were popular at that time. I'm an 80s baby, so I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And yeah, so those were the songs that were popular. And it just kind of warmed my heart to hear that my neighbors could actually appreciate that. It was a memory I may not have necessarily remembered, but because they shared that with me, it was like, oh, okay, yes, I do remember that. How I used to walk around in the garden, very close, in close proximity to their house. And I would just love singing, like this cute, crazy little kid. So from the time I was little, I knew I also had this gift. I think when it really hit home for me was one day in school. Look, they'd always call me up to sing because people obviously liked my voice and they liked the sound of my voice. So I'd get called up often to sing. And the one day we had, I think it was like a free period. And so we were in what was called the multi-purpose room, the class like hanging out there, and opposite that multi-purpose room was the school library. So they called me up to sing, and you know, we were all just little kids, we're hanging out, having fun, free period, okay, let's sing, let's have some fun. And I'm singing my song, I think it was Boys to Men in the Still of the Night. Yes, that was it. That was one of my famous ones because you could really showcase your voice. You could really showcase like your talent and what your voice could do in that song. So anyway, I am there in the front and singing my heart out, enjoying the song. And when I'm finished, I turn to the side and I see all of the students that were in the library had come out and they were standing at the door opposite the library now in this multi-purpose room where I was singing and my class was there. Everybody at the door just in awe looking at me, and then they start clapping. I was like so surprised, like, oh, whoa, okay, like what's going on? And that was the moment, you know, after I had processed it a bit, I realized, okay, I think they really like my voice and I think I have a gift for singing. I was naturally gifted, meaning that I never really had to work on my vocals as much. I had this gift that was something that sounded really good from the get-go. Of course, you know, I went for vocal training and stuff later on in my life, which is amazing to tweak up your performance, to tweak up your natural talents, or like if you have a gift for singing or whatever it may be. You know, if you find that you are drawn to something, you enjoy something like beauty or massage or whatever, like a hobby that you may have, later on when you go for a class in that, it helps you to become more skilled in that thing that you already enjoy and may have some raw talent there. So that's what I found for myself. That's what it looked like to me, that I had been naturally gifted. Voice already sounded beautiful without having any of the training and stuff, which I would only go on to do later on in life. And that's how I knew it was a natural gifting. Later on, getting to go for vocal training and work on my skills, learning like we did today, the more of the technical side, that just gave me an even greater reverence and like, wow, the wow factor for what we actually possess as our vocals. And those types of things that you learn, the exercises and stuff that you do, they help you with things that you obviously would not necessarily know, like how to protect your voice from damage, how to not strain your vocals, how you can actually sing better and project your natural gifting even better, how you can climb further and further up the ladder of, you know, just improving your vocals and making your voice sound even better than it already does. So I think there is no substitute for that, even though we may be naturally gifted. Well, hey, that's part of the reason I do what I do here today on YouTube, why I teach people, why I offer classes and courses in vocal training. Because whether you can sing or not, whether you're naturally gifted or not, you can always work on that skill. I use the example of like how an unfit person can go to a gym or start running or do something small and become fit if you do that exercise consistently every day, get your heart rate up, try and eat right. You know, there's all those different things that you can do to make sure that you can start to become fit or improve your fitness level. Just like how a muscle can grow with a little bit of resistance, a little bit of training. It's the exact same concept with your vocals. Your vocals, let's say you can't sing for dear life. Your vocals are an instrument that you can build up, you can tweak, you can exercise, you can learn all of these different things that I teach, like exercises, breathing and vocal training. All of this stuff can help you to really work on that gift. I call it a gift because that's exactly what it is. To work on the gift of your vocals and build it up to the level that you want it to be at. So that's, I think, just awesome to know that you don't have to be a naturally gifted singer. If you are, that's wonderful. You can go even further with your talent. But even if you're not, and you love the idea of singing, it's something that you can work on. It's something that you can improve, and it's something that you can still do and sound beautiful. You can still sound amazing if you learn how to use your vocals correctly. Okay, so I digress. I get so passionate when I talk about vocals. Anyway, fast forward to a few more years. I started my own business when I was really young. I was like around 16. I'd finished school earlier, homeschooled myself. That is a whole nother topic for another day. But basically, I was very impatient and determined. People say intelligent, but I was very determined. Wanted to just finish school so I could start making my own money. Honestly, that was one of the main reasons I felt it was such a waste of time at school. All of the peer pressure, all of the people just acting so stupid. I'm like, I really don't want to be in this environment. So after 1 year of high school, decided I'm going to do the whole homeschooling thing. But obviously you will still like register and write the same national matric. You do all the same exams and that kind of thing to get the same kind of qualification, like an matric exemption, which is what I got. For people that use different terminology, it may be grade 12, which is a term that they use now referring to matric, or your last year of high school. So anyway, I was able to finish earlier, go to college earlier, start my business earlier. I went to a college where I learned about all different types of natural therapies. I was just so fascinated by that and homeopathic medicine. So that is what I first got into in my professional career. As I progressed into that, I saw that I had a gift for teaching. People would compliment me on the way that I was able to communicate. So I picked up another natural gifting there from what I was doing and the feedback that I was getting from other people. So that's a little hint for you if you are wondering about what it is that you want to do with your life, or what you feel that you may be good at. You might not realize, but other people can generally tend to pick that up. So anyway, I started first teaching workshops in the different natural therapies that I had learned, and it went amazing. But I still felt like this part of my life, this singing part of my life, was just so in the background, and I wanted to really branch out into it more. As time went on, I was finally given that opportunity to do so. But what made it very difficult was, you know, I told you we're going to dive deep here today. We're diving deep. So I was heavily bullied growing up by, I won't obviously mention names because I don't want that person to feel shamed, but let's say somebody that was very close to me, and that really affected my self-esteem. You know, that was something like a bulldozer that just kept pushing me down lower and lower. And especially when you're a little child, these things imprint on our minds. We're like little sponges, and we take in all this information. We just believe everything that we're told. And that is exactly what happened to me. So I had very low self-esteem growing up. I didn't have any confidence in myself at all. I was very sensitive, naive, and while it might be a good thing to be trusting, it's also, you know, something that you have to hold within a balance. It can also be a bad thing. It can be good and bad to trust versus not trusting people. You need to find the correct balance and learn when is it a good time to trust people, or this like a specific person. What would make them trustworthy or worthy of your trust? So this person that bullied me, I can see looking back now that they had their own pain, their own shame. You know, there's this phrase that goes, hurting people hurt people. And I think that's exactly what it is. It doesn't make it right. It's still not okay to project your own hurts onto the next person. But anyway, that was my journey in life, and I accepted it and learned my best to try and move on from that. Trauma, unfortunately, is a thing that we have to live with the rest of our lives. It's not something that you feel, okay, I've done the work on and I'm done. Healing happens in layers and stages, and I've seen this in my own life as well, so I'm speaking from experience here too. You may feel that you are healed from something, you've worked through a situation and it's done, but 5 years later, it can rear its ugly head again. That's because the healing works in that way, and the human psyche is just something that trauma tends to stick with. So a better way of looking at it is not trying to just heal all these things that are wrong with yourself and make it like you are this bad, shameful person, but to actually look at it like trauma is something we have to accept that we have went through, and accept that this is our journey in life, and the trauma is a part of it that we're going to have to learn to live with. Just knowing that actually gives me a lot of peace. I also believe that there are good and bad, light and dark energies and entities in this world. So with what happened to me, I feel it was like something using that person to try and crush the dreams and the hopes, the gifts that I had in me. But God and the universe had other plans for me. After realizing so many of my gifts, the singing from the time I was little, the teaching, and then having a passion for business as well, I decided to combine all three. But I really wanted an avenue. I wanted a door to open where I could sort of test the waters and see what I could do with this gifting. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So I started teaching singing for a music school that is based regionally, and I would have my own students come in. The lessons were amazing. That was how I started the actual professional side of teaching. But my training actually started years and years ago when I first started going to church around 2003. I noticed when I was in church, the leadership naturally gravitated towards me again because of my gifting. So it was like my vocal gift started to open up these doors for me as well. People recognized stuff in me that I didn't even necessarily recognize in myself. I was someone that still, I always wanted to be in the background. I still had my self-esteem, low confidence issues. I never wanted to be that person that was in the front and, people staring at, people judging me. If anything, being in the background didn't even make so much of a difference because people would still be at me about whatever I'm wearing, my makeup, how my hair looked that day. It was tough on me, but that is the world we live in, and that is people. We have to deal with people on a regular basis. Thank God, I have now learned tools and techniques to help me navigate that and better deal with people. Also, building up my own self-confidence has been key because that is what's allowed me to be able to navigate all the dramas of life a lot more effectively. Okay, so back to church. This was where I got a lot of my training, even though there were all those other things going on, dealing with church politics and people and so forth. I never wanted to be that person in the front of the church. I felt like also it would be taking away glory from God if they were too fixated on me. That was, especially my mindset at that time. And I'm glad though the way everything worked out, because I ended up I was very, very humble, and I ended up really getting a lot of training even helping other people when we would have our what we call band practice. So you would go in once or twice a week for band practice, and we would there have an opportunity to work on songs. It would be for the Sunday service, but we would work on songs, lyrics, the instruments, everybody coming together and making it happen. I did this consistently for so many years, which I am so grateful for, because that was an excellent training ground for me. After I started to see my potential, I was naturally inclined to help others. So even in band practice, while we're doing all of this stuff, I would be helping to teach and train other people while the practice is going on. And it was just so wonderful for me. Aside from that, doing various performances, doing regular Sunday services, I got a lot of practice in over all of those years. Perfect training ground. Later on, I then went on to get professional vocal training for myself, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I started seeing deeper into the possibilities and what you can really achieve with your vocals once you can have some proper training, how much further you can go in your gifting and your skill set. If you have that goal, that dream, that hope that has been placed in your heart, it's there for a reason. You are most likely meant to go after that thing. That is why you have that desire. And along that journey, there are going to be all kinds of monsters that come out and come at you to try and crush those dreams. Don't let it happen. Consider this your permission if you need it for today. You can go ahead, go for those dreams, reach for those things, work on it, even if it's small steps every day. But do that thing that you need to do for yourself. Give yourself permission and do your best to try and blot out those negative voices. It comes to a point where that's all you can do. I had to do my best to ignore, push aside that negativity, and day by day just put one foot in front of the other and go for it, to go for that dream that I knew I was working towards. So let's fast forward a few years later. Here I am, operating in my gift, absolutely loving what I'm doing, feeling passionate, focused. Of course, I have my down days. We all have ups and downs. That's life. Life is full of that. But at the end of the day, I'm doing what I love doing. I have helped so many students. I have worked with so many different types of people from so many different backgrounds. For me personally, I feel fulfilled and like I am making an impact in the lives of others. All of this wouldn't have been possible if I didn't go through my own struggles. That is the reason I had to build up my confidence. So many of us come to this earth and we have very difficult journeys. We have all of these difficult things that we have to overcome. Personally, I feel I wouldn't be the person I am today. And if you can look back at your own life, you may see the same thing. You wouldn't be the person you are today if you hadn't went through and endured the struggles that you had. It's like because I was put down so much, because I had so many of these things to overcome, that is what pushed me to overcome them. That is what helped me to build a strong self-esteem, to build good self-confidence and learn about self-love. I wouldn't have necessarily went down this path had I not had these horrendous people in my life and these difficult circumstances that were something for me to have to work through and work against in order to develop all the good character traits that I have today. So I really hope that my story has inspired you. It's just the tip of the iceberg, but I'd like you to compare it to your own life. look at the things that you've been through, your own struggles, and see how that has developed beautiful, good character traits in yourself. In the comment section, be brave enough and share with us some of your own personal trials, tribulations, anything from your own personal journey, whether it's to do with life or singing, anything you may have experienced. Let's share with one another. Let's share our stories and help to build one another up. I find from sharing what we've been through, it can really inspire and encourage the next person. Wow, my beautiful divas, this has been a nice one. It's been a deep dive. We got very technical about our vocals, and we also went deep into our personal lives, journeys and struggles. So after this, I think it would be highly appropriate for us to do a nice, relaxing breathing exercise. And in this next one, I'm going to include a visualization exercise. This is going to help with manifestation. I think perfect for all of the topics we discussed today. Let's do a breathing and visualization exercise to help manifest and bring to life your dream life, your goals, your ambitions, whatever it is that you would want for your life. Let's use the power of our minds and let's bring that down to reality. So I will catch you in that next video, and until then, my beautiful divas, stay awesome.